Hey everyone, it's Sevi. The Phase 1 banners for version 3.3 just dropped, so as always, I'm going to do a quick review of them, talk about their pull value, and talk about the characters and weapons that are featured on this banner. So starting with the character banner, our featured 5 stars are Wanderer and Itto. And these two 5 stars are actually quite similar in the fact that they play similar roles as main carries of dealing raw damage of their respective element, and they are also accompanied by premium 4-star supports that are especially made for them. Now, in the case of Wanderer, he is a new character, and we've already seen info on him from the Genshin livestream special program. Him being a new character means that there's kind of a lot to test and figure out. That being said, I would advise you to wait a bit more for information, reviews, showcases that could help you make a more informed decision about whether or not you really should pull him. He does look very fun, he's highly anticipated, he's a very attractive looking character, but yes, you may want to watch out for those. Of course, if you're already set on getting him, then I already wish you a lot of luck. Wanderer is tied to Faruzan on the same banner, and Faruzan, from what we know of her kit that has already been revealed, she is our dedicated support for Anemo DPSs that specialize in raw Anemo damage. She can buff Anemo damage and she shreds Anemo resistance of enemies. So she's going to be your support for raw Anemo damage dealers like Wanderer, Heizo, and Xiao. If you don't have any of these Anemo DPSs, then Faruzan won't have much use for you. As for Itto, our other 5-star on this banner, his functions and value haven't really changed since the introduction of Dendro, since Itto doesn't synergize with Dendro at all. There are no reactions there, and Itto is very much tied to Geo-heavy or even mono-Geo comps. So he's a very want, not need character. If you want to commit to the mono-Geo lifestyle, if you want some fun Unga Bunga playstyle, then that is what Itto can deliver. And he is tied to his premium 4-star support, Gorou, who very much enables those mono-Geo teams and gives a huge damage boost to Itto, Noelle, and if you include him in the comp, Albedo. So even though Gorou is limited to his element, and I guess in a way limited to those characters in particular because he specializes in buffing Geo defense scaling damage, Gorou is a great unit and he's excellent at what he does. So yeah, Wanderer and Faruzan, pair them together, Itto and Gorou, pair them together. They're very similar cases of 5-star DPSs with respective 4-star dedicated supports. That being said, this is a bit of a risky situation that Hoyo has put us in by putting these two pairs on the same phase. You could end up in a situation where you get Wanderer, you don't get Faruzan, and you get Gorou. And let's say you don't use any of the characters that Gorou supports specially. You don't use Noelle, you don't have Itto, and you don't use Albedo. You have no reason to use Gorou and he's probably just going to be benched, and worse, you don't have the dedicated 4-star support for Wanderer. This is a very real possibility because these banners don't have 4-star pity. You can't magically choose which 4 stars you're going to get from the banner. And a very similar scenario could happen if you are going for Itto. You could get Itto, you might end up with no Gorou copies, no Gorou constellations, and you'll get Faruzan. And if you don't main Heizo or Wanderer or Xiao, Faruzan is mainly going to be a benched character. So it's understandable that Faruzan is there for Wanderer and Gorou is there for Itto, but I think Hoyo made a bad decision in the first place in putting Wanderer and Itto on the same banner phase, because that forced their respective 4-star supports to also go on the same banner. What would have been a better scenario is if they just let Wanderer be the featured 5-star, let him shine, the highly anticipated unit, and then chosen another 5-star character that didn't need a dedicated 4-star support. Literally almost anyone else, not Itto, because then it wouldn't have demanded a slot among the 4 stars. Because then the last 4-star on the banner could have been someone more flexible that could be comped with Wanderer, say Fischl or Xingqiu or Bennett or literally almost anyone else other than Gorou. Since Gorou is like one of the characters you literally could not comp with Wanderer. So yeah, as convenient as this might look at first glance, because hey, you have the 5-star DPS with their dedicated supports, you could end up in a bad scenario. In my eyes, it runs a greater risk more than anything. On the plus side, if you're not interested in Wanderer or Itto at all, these banners are an easy skip. Because you're not really missing out on the 4 stars either. In fact, now that these very niche 4 stars are out of the way, you can hope for more flexible and generalist 4 stars in upcoming banners. Now, the last 4-star on this banner is possibly the only neutral character among the selection, and that's Yanfei, who I actually really like as a 4-star carry. That's her main role. Since she is a 4-star, she can of course be outpowered or outmatched by 5 stars who perform the same role, but when I do 4-star team showcases in Spiral Abyss, Yanfei is my go-to for a ranged pyro DPS. Her attacks have a good range, she can output solid damage, she's straightforward to build, and she just wants teammates who can either enable reactions or buff and support her. And then once Yanfei gets her Constellation 4, then you can even build her into Tank Fei if you are lacking in shield supports. Moving on to the weapon banner, which features Wanderer's signature weapon, Tulaytallah's Remembrance, and Itto's signature weapon, the Redhron Stonethresher. So Tulaytallah's weapon details were already revealed, and the main thing to note is that its passive only buffs normal attacks. Obviously, this is meant to benefit Wanderer the most. It means there will be an emphasis on normal attacks in his kit and playstyle, but in terms of other Catalyst users, most of them don't have huge damage shares in their normal attacks, but rather from combining their normal and charged attacks, skill, and burst. So on other Catalyst users, Tulaytallah will mostly be a stat stick. It has a high base attack, it has a crit substat, but if you already have a weapon that can help buff the entirety of the Catalyst user's kit, not just their normal attacks, let's say with Sis for example, then I would say you're already set and there's really no need to pull for this weapon. As for the Redhron, it is yet another stat stick with its massive crit damage stat, and at least its passive buffs both normal and charged attacks. So Redhron has been tested on several Claymore users, yes, stat stick, but generally because of its low base attack, if you are putting it on an attack scaling Claymore user, then you want to complement it with a lot of attack buffs. Either way, with these 5-star weapons, whether or not you are pulling the characters that they were made for, don't feel pressured to pull on the weapon banner because the 5-star characters do have cheaper weapon options already that you can settle for and that output enough damage such that you don't need to risk your primos on this weapon banner. As for the 4-star weapons on this banner, we have a couple of Favonius weapons. So the Favonius bow, it's good, it's convenient that it's on this banner, it's always a great weapon, but more importantly, this is a bow that you want to give to Faruzan and or Gorou, because they are energy hungry units that want to make and funnel more energy. Then we have the Fav Greatsword, which similarly is good for any Claymore users that need the energy recharge and make them better batteries for supporting their team and such. And then there's the Sacrificial Sword, which is 1, a good ER sword, and 2, really good for certain characters that want that skill cooldown reset effect. The first one that comes to mind as always is going to be Sing Cho. Then there's Wavebreaker's Fin, that is a very good pole arm for burst dependent pole arm users. And finally, Eye of Perception. Is that still a thing? I guess, but it's not really ever on the top of my recommended catalysts for any character in particular. And then really quickly, Genshin also released the details of the upcoming event weapon, which looks like a parasol. It comes with an EM substat and then an effect that increases damage dealt. We have to check or test first if that's going to affect bloom damage, hyper bloom version. It's likely not going to, but essentially it's going to be like a side grade to Iron Sting. So any of the characters that you would have wanted to put Iron Sting on, you can instead use this weapon, save a billet. In particular, this is a weapon you could put on aggravate units. And that's going to be all for this Phase 1 version 3.3 banner review. Let me know in the comments who you're pulling for, what you think of the banners, and if you are pulling, I wish you a lot of luck. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you all soon. Take care!